That night taught me the harsh truth about life. I didn't wake up that morning expecting anything unusual. It was just another ordinary day. Work, errands, small conversations, the same routine I had followed for years. I remember thinking about what I'd cook for dinner and whether I'd finally catch up on some sleep. Nothing about that day felt important. Nothing hinted that it would change how I see people forever. I've always tried to live quietly. I mind my own business. I treat people with respect. I believe that if you move through the world with kindness, the world will meet you halfway. That belief shaped who I became. I held doors open. I helped strangers when they dropped something. I checked on friends when they went silent. I tried to be the kind of person I wish more people were. That night, I left work later than usual. The streets were calm, almost empty. Streetlights reflected softly on the pavement, and the city felt strangely peaceful. I had music playing low in the car, and my mind drifting between thoughts. I was tired, but in that quiet, reflective way that comes after a long day. Then I saw flashing lights in my mirror. At first, I thought they were passing by, but they stayed behind me. I pulled over. I told myself not to panic. I had done nothing wrong. My hands rested on the steering wheel just like I'd been taught. I rolled down the window and waited. 2 officers approached. Their faces were serious. Their voices were short. They asked for my license and registration. I handed everything over calmly. I tried to smile, to be polite, to show cooperation. Inside, though, my heart had started beating faster. There's something about being stopped at night that makes time slow down. Every sound feels louder. Every movement feels heavier. They asked where I was coming from. I answered. They asked where I was going. I answered. They asked if I had anything illegal in the car. I said no. The questions kept coming, even though I hadn't broken any laws. Their eyes moved over me, then around the car, as if they were searching for a reason. I could feel myself shrinking under their gaze. Not physically, emotionally. One of them asked me to step out of the vehicle. I did. I stood on the sidewalk while cars passed in the distance. The air felt colder. My hands were shaking, even though I tried to keep them still. They searched my car. They searched my pockets. People driving by slowed down to look. I felt exposed, embarrassed, and small. I kept thinking, this must be a misunderstanding. This will be over soon. But minutes stretched into what felt like forever. I wasn't arrested. I wasn't charged. Eventually, they handed back my documents and told me I could go. No apology, no explanation. Just a simple, you're free to leave. I got back into my car and drove away, but something inside me stayed behind on that sidewalk. I didn't cry right away. I drove in silence. The music was off now. My hands felt stiff on the steering wheel. When I finally reached home, I sat in the car for several minutes before going inside. I just stared at nothing, trying to understand what had just happened. That night wasn't violent. Nothing dramatic made the news. But it changed me, because for the first time, I understood what it feels like to be judged before you speak, to be treated like a problem instead of a person, to realize that sometimes it doesn't matter how respectful you are or how carefully you live your life. Sometimes people decide who you are before you ever get the chance to show them. I replayed the moment again and again in my head. Every question, every look, every second, I stood there feeling powerless. I thought about how easily things could have gone differently, how one wrong movement, one misunderstood gesture could have changed everything. What hurt the most wasn't the stop itself. It was the realization. I had always believed that if you did the right thing, you'd be treated fairly. That night taught me that life doesn't always work that way. Over the next few days, I felt different. I moved through the world more carefully. I noticed things I had never paid attention to before. The way people looked at me in certain spaces. The way I adjusted my behavior without even realizing it. I became more aware of how fragile a sense of safety can be. I talked to friends about what happened. Some listened quietly. Some were shocked. Others shared their own stories, moments they had never spoken about before. That's when I realized how common these experiences were, and how rarely we talk about them. I also realized something else. I had been living with a kind of innocence. I thought fairness was automatic. I thought respect was guaranteed. I thought being a good person was enough. That night stripped those illusions away. But it also gave me clarity. I started paying attention to how I treat people, especially when they're vulnerable. I became more patient, more aware, more intentional. I learned that empathy isn't just feeling sorry for someone. It's trying to understand what they carry when they walk into a room. I didn't become angry at the world. I became more awake. I understood that systems are imperfect, that people carry biases, whether they admit it or not, and that real change doesn't come from hate. It comes from awareness, conversation, and choosing to see each other as human beings. That night taught me the harsh truth about life. Not everyone will judge you by your character. Not everyone will give you the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes, the hardest moments are the quiet ones that nobody else sees. But it also taught me something powerful. It taught me the importance of dignity, of staying calm when everything inside you wants to break, of holding on to your humanity when the world tries to take it from you. It reminded me that kindness still matters, even when it isn't returned, that boundaries matter, that self-respect matters, and that your worth doesn't depend on how strangers see you in their worst moments. Here's what I've learned since then. Be aware, but don't become bitter. Speak up, but don't lose compassion. Protect yourself, but don't close your heart. And most importantly, remember that every person you pass on the street is carrying a story you can't see. That night changed how I see life. Not because it broke me, but because it showed me how much growth can come from discomfort. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone. Subscribe to Black and White Tales for more emotional stories and real-life reflections. And tell me in the comments, has there ever been a moment in your life that completely changed how you see the world?